Alrighty. Welcome to Being Becca Live. Apparently I am live now and it's all working. I usually get a little weird notification, but I don't know if chat is working. I have a notification that my chat is not working, so that's going to be on YouTube side. I'm sorry if that's affecting you guys right now. Anyway, welcome to it, you guys. It is Being Back Alive, where we talk about the challenges of being an autistic adult alive right now, and not when research catches up. I am wearing this shirt today because this is how I feel today. Perfectly imperfect. And I love this shirt. I really love this shirt, but I love it even more now because I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? There, see that stain right there? I got chocolate on my shirt because I'm autistic and I have dyspraxia and I'm a sloppy eater and a generalized mess. And so that's why I don't own white t-shirts, because I drop everything on my shirts. But now I love this shirt more because it's perfectly imperfect with its little chocolate stain on it. Oh, good. It's working on your guys' end. Awesome. So I love this shirt so much. And it's the greatest shirt for today. First of all, I've had so many things happen. I just finished teaching Unit 3, and my dogs were being so bad that in the middle of a live teaching of this course, which is being recorded so that I can then put it up on my website, my dogs decided to behave badly and bark at everything and not listen to me. And I had to get up in the middle of the class, let my dogs out, and come back. That is how you teach in a perfectly imperfect way. So I'm trying to be kind with myself because I am having a kind of a rough day. My dyspraxia is sort of kicked up, and so I'm dropping everything, having some coordination issues and things like that. But here I am. And I wanted to talk about something today that I think is important. However, before I begin, I want to please remind you guys that I am currently trying to reach the goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of December, and I would love your help. If you are watching this and you are not subscribed, please subscribe so that I can continue to grow the channel and continue to put money and energy into it. If you are already subscribed to this channel and you have not yet shared the wealth of information that comes on this channel with other people, I would truly appreciate your shares because I am setting this goal for myself to reach 1,000 subscribers. And I would really, really, really love to get there because then I will know that enough people are watching that I feel like I can invest some more money into it in terms of editing, in terms of maybe a camera that's not attached to my computer. I don't know. I'm also thinking about attempting Vlogmas this year because since I'm doing this big push towards the end of December, perhaps putting out a little vlog every day will get us encouraged to get subscribers and things. So I'm considering that. And very lastly, I am also going to be doing a giveaway on the channel for those of you who are watchers. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you hit the notification bell, because at some point on our non-regularly scheduled schedule, I am going to put out a giveaway video. And there will be rules in there and what I'm giving away and all of those things, some of which are sessions with me, copies of Spectrum Women, things like that. I was also thinking about maybe some Tony's Coffee Shack gear for fun for some of you guys. I was trying to think of all the other stuff and probably some stuff from my Redbubble store. Yay! Mugs or things like that I don't have to worry about sizes for you guys. Pins, maybe. I don't know. But that is coming in December. That I will do a Vlogmas and a giveaway and all of that in December because I really want to grow the channel. So that is my announcement prior to this. The other announcement is that there will be no self-defined living seminars for the months of November, December, and January. I've decided that it's the holidays. I'm exhausted. You guys are probably exhausted, and everyone is busy with the holidays and time off and things like that, that I don't think that registration will be worth doing. So I'm going to hold off on that until February. So I'm taking a break on that. But I'll still be doing the newsletter and such. So if you're not signed up for that, go ahead and sign up for the free newsletter. Okay, I think that was everything. I think that was all the business I had to take care of. Let me move on to today's topic because today's topic fascinates me. It's something that I think we need to talk about from an autistic perspective. Hey, Burnett. Hey, Bernard. Hi, Joe. Hey, Stevie. Thank you guys for joining me today. I love seeing you there. Today, we are going to be talking about autism and perfectionism, which is the other reason I'm wearing the shirt Perfectly Imperfect, because we're going to talk about perfectionism and the traps for us in terms of perfectionism. So I was thinking about like something that my coach is doing right now, as you guys know, I really do believe in having coaches, and I have my own. And my coach is talking about perfectionism a lot because it sets traps for us in our own way. And as she was sort of teaching some of the things about perfectionism, I was sort of looking at it and thinking, well, there's different pieces of it to it for us, right? It's slightly skewed. So I am going to share in the chat, since it's currently working, an article. Boof. There it is. That is what I was reading recently, because I've just been scrolling through blah, blah, blah. And I liked the way that this article described the traps in perfectionism. Because here's the deal. We perfectionists hold themselves to high standards, and we hold ourselves to a certain set of standards that we wouldn't hold other people to. And I think that's the key about perfectionism, is that we hold ourselves to a higher standard than we would anybody else. And that's absurd. We're just like everybody else. Why are we doing that, right? And I think also that for us, perfectionism is a coping mechanism. I think we use it as a coping mechanism to protect ourselves as autistics. And I want to explore that a little bit. So for me, the idea of needing to be perfect, to do things perfectly, to plan perfectly, all of those things, in a way, for us autistic people, is a way for us to try and take control of the uncontrollable. Right? We can't be perfect. We are setting ourselves for a goal that does not exist. There is no way to be perfect. Moreover, we know that, especially as people who do the self-defined living course, that mistakes are there on purpose. They're there. We have to fail. We have to have a certain amount of failures to learn the things we needed to learn in order to get to the thing we are trying to succeed at, right? Like every successful person is someone who gets up well. They just have learned to get up from their mistakes and failures. And that's that continued commitment to that, right? That conscious commitment to learning from their mistakes and just continuing to move forward from them and not letting their mistakes trap them is what makes them successful people. That's why I think resilience is the key to success for me. And so perfectionism sort of can just, it dumps itself right in the middle, and it becomes a roadblock to being this authentic version of yourself, to treating yourself with kindness and all of those things. So I wanted to talk about some of the traps that being a perfectionist type of person can get you into, right? Like some of the traps you end up laying for yourself, right? And so I was reading around about that, and I like just the way this article said it about. So I want to talk about the traps. And so these things, this article says, they come from a cognitive behavioral workbook for anxiety, which means it was written for neurotypicals and not for us, but we have lots to learn here, right? Because we do it too. We do this perfectionist thing. And again, I think the difference between perfectionism that neurotypicals do and the perfectionism that autistics do is, again, as always, our why behind the activity, the why behind the behavior. Our why behind our perfectionism is different, I think, right? Okay, so first one is self-perfectionism, right? When we hold ourselves to that standard of I must not make mistakes, and everyone must like me, and everyone must approve of what I'm doing, and I have to behave a certain way in order to have value, and all of those things, right? That's what we say inside our heads when we are being a self-perfectionist. And what I hear when I see those things is a lot of issues about self-esteem. And so I think, yes, self-perfectionism is a trap out of the perfectionism traps. But I think why we fall into self-perfectionism is because of the way that the world responds to us, right? We think we can't make mistakes and we must have the approval of others, and our behavior must be a certain way in order to have value, because that is what we are told. We are told that we are not valued and that the way we behave normally is not acceptable. And so we then become so self-critical that we seek ourselves to be the perfect version of a human, and that is unrelated to who we are. So it means denying our authenticity, denying who we are actually. And so while we might be perfect on the outside, it's a perfectly imperfect, right? We're presenting perfection while inside it's a giant mess, right? And these ideas about ourselves keep us stuck. That thinking gets us stuck in it gives us inertia. I mean, really, when we are holding ourselves to that standard and it's an unrealistic, unacceptable standard, right? We are basically saying this is something you will never succeed at. I mean, you will never be this thing, right? And we just get stuck that in those thought patterns of how we'll never be any different than this, and so we can never do anything. And then we get into inertia because it's all so scary, and then we get into shutdown and burnout, and it rolls that way. And so to me, that standard, that self-perfectionism standard that we hold ourselves to so that we don't get caught for our autism, right, becomes a trap. It becomes the mask. We become our mask. And then we're stuck because we don't know how to think any other way. We don't know how to reprogram our thoughts away from this perfectionism, right? Just drop something, sorry. Then there's social perfectionism. And I think this is our number one. This is it, right? And it says social perfectionism is the idea that other people should comply with your rules and your social rules, right? That their behavior should comply with your rules, right? And what that's saying basically is that I can control everybody else's behavior. I think that my standard A is the only standard, right? Which is an arrogance. And then also to say that everyone else should hold themselves to my standards, right? But I can't control their behavior. Is that ever going to happen? No. Again, something that is unrealistic and something that we will never achieve, right? But this social perfectionism takes another space in our lives because we not only want other people to comply by our rules, but actually for us, it's reversed. We want ourselves to comply by their rules, right? We want to present the perfect mask so that no one catches us. And so we never socialize in a way that's authentic. And that's why we struggle with friendships, right? Because every time we're in a friendship, it's covered by this social perfectionism. And the truth is that everybody makes social mistakes and everybody has misunderstandings and everybody kind of does a poo-poo some here and there, right? But it's the weight that we give that and how much we hold ourselves to that standard that no one should see the cracks in our mask. And think about what we're asking. We're asking ourselves to be somebody else, right? We are asking ourselves to be someone who we are not. And when we do that, we know that's an unhealthy system for us. And so that social perfectionism, I think, leads us, poof, right directly into masking once again, right? Learning perfectionism. This one, I don't know. I sort of sit on it depends, right? But I think we can fall into this one. So this one is all about expecting yourself to learn something new without making a mistake. And so most of the time, I think we're pretty kind to ourselves when we're trying to learn new things and we don't get it right away and all of those things. So that can be frustrating when the thing you're trying to learn is something like social, right? How can we try to learn something perfectly that is so imperfect in its very being, right? And so we try to learn all of these new skills and we use our echolalia and we use our ability to mask all to be these perfect learners, because at least if we're smart, we're not a waste, right? And that idea. And what it means is that we don't ever really learn, or what it can mean is that you don't ever learn anything well, or that you don't ever want to learn anything new, right? And again, that is like a gateway to inertia to me, because our brains are info-seeking brains. We love learning new things. And it's the idea that because we're learning something new, that we might make a mistake makes the learning something new not so good, then we're missing out on a lot, right? We're cutting into our own joy. Product perfectionism. That this one is all about the things that you do and create, right? That the things that you do and create must be perfect, right? And first of all, I don't know how we can create anything perfect because, there is no such thing, right? And so we're seeking this thing that it doesn't exist. Everything we want to do, we need to create in such a perfect way that it is as close to perfect as we can make it. That means that we're expending energy on that perfection, which is unattainable, rather than spending energy on doing more. So we end up doing less and being less productive by being perfectionists. Our perfectionism actually keeps us away from productivity, right? So can we see that? And we fall into this idea of product perfectionism in the workplace all the time, right? We don't want people to know we don't know what we're doing. We don't want people to know that we've made a mistake. We don't want people to see that we're struggling, right? And so we get very critical of the things we create and when things are good enough for the world to see, right? The comparative trap. I talk about this one all the time, right? I talk about it in terms of flowers, right? I talk about the flower garden and how, when you're a flower in a garden, it is your job to just be the best flower that you can be, not to look around at the other flowers and say, I'm not a good enough flower like that flower over there, right? Because there is no right way to flower. And that is where this comparative trap comes in. If you haven't learned that lesson, that being the best you is the way to be, and all you are consumed with is comparing your abilities to the people next to you, right? All of your energy is going into that comparison. And again, that energy isn't going where we want it to be going. It's a waste of spoons to be a comparative, right? So I've talked about that one before. And definitely when it comes to being normal, we definitely do the comparative trap. Do I look normal next to that guy, next to that guy? Do I look as autistic as that guy? Do I look this, that, right? And so when we do that, what we do is we take away our own brilliance. We take away the energy from ourselves to be the best flower we can fucking be, right? And then the last one was performance anxiety. So because we are so want to do things perfect, we have this huge anxiety about a failure or mistake. And so we almost get afraid to do things because if I do something and I make a mistake, someone's going to see that mistake and they're going to know I'm not perfect. And so it's better to not do things, or it's better to let the anxiety win. And I think you know how I feel about that, you guys. If you guys have been watching long enough to know how I feel about that, right? So it's been an interesting journey for me into this idea of perfectionism, because again, I think our perfectionism comes from a different place. It comes from this coping mechanism place of not wanting to be found out for being different, if that makes sense. But we do still suffer from these traps, right? We still get the repercussions, the same repercussions from these traps. It's again just that our why for being perfectionists comes from a different place. And I think we all struggle with different versions of perfectionism in different areas. Some of us have more perfectionism in perhaps product perfectionism and not as much in social perfectionism. I don't know, right? But we all kind of struggle with this. And I would love almost if the word perfect was gone from the English language, because no such thing exists in that state. There's nothing that exists in a perfect state, right? Everything is always moving in different states. So perfection is a momentary, right? Perfection is this like, wow, that's the most beautiful sky I've ever seen. It's the perfect sky. And then one cloud moves and now it's different, right? And that's how life is. So it's this moving target perfectionism. It's an impossibility for us. And so we expend a lot of energy and spoons in that, mental energy and spoons, about perfectionism. And I how I talked about how I forgot to calculate in the spoons for the extra work it takes to get through the depression. Well, here's another area where we can forget about spoons and how many spoons we're wasting on being a perfectionist, on chasing something that is impossible, right? I think instead we need to seek to be perfectly imperfect, right? We want to do our best and know that there are going to be mistakes and we are going to do things, and we are perfect in our imperfection. That is what we need to digest. We need to digest that piece, because then all of a sudden comparing isn't so great. Because I look at that guy now who I thought was so great, and now I see that he doesn't spend a lot of time on self-care. And now I notice that he doesn't spend a lot of time with his family or in his relationships. And I think, well, if I think about it that way, he's not so perfect, because nobody's perfect. And he's also perfectly imperfect. Right? We're good at what we're good at. We're bad at what we're bad at. We can work on some things. Other things won't go away. Right? And we are all beautiful in our imperfection. And I think we need to call perfectionism what it is, a spoon stealer. Perfectionism is a spoon stealer. And I think we need to understand that it may have been a coping mechanism that worked for us up until now. But this is the concept of know better, do better. Right? We know that these traps lie there with perfectionism. And if we know that, we can do better than that. We don't have to chase something that shouldn't exist. Let's see what goes on. Much of my anxiety stems from perfectionism. I've done a lot of work in this area. It's odd how it's so encouraged in childhood and not mistakes. Well, thank you. Right? If you learned in your childhood that mistakes were what you should be trying to do so you can learn from them, or that mistakes were just meant that you did something and not that anybody's judging you, if we had learned that in childhood, we all wouldn't be seeking something that doesn't exist. We wouldn't be chasing this perfectionism as a way to hide our faults. We'd all be okay with our faults, right? And so we don't teach that to children. And so what we need to do is teach it to ourselves so the next generation can learn it, right? Product perfectionism is my biggest struggle. I often feel my work isn't good enough, even when other people praise me, right? And again, Burnett, that's something that's an internal dialogue, right? No one else is experiencing that but you. And so what is it doing for you? Is it helping you in any way? Is it making your writing better? Or is it just holding you back from writing the things that you truly want to write, right? For fear of. So I'd love for you to unpack all of that. I would love for you guys to unpack it. I gave you the article. I would love if you thought about all of those traps and maybe thought a little bit about how you have fallen into those traps in the past and how now that you know better, you can do better, right? So Burnett says, if it never helps me, if anything, it holds me back. So now here we know this thing, right? And we call it perfectionism. Like that word means something, right? And yet it creates for us imperfectness, right? Trying to seek that creates more imperfection, right? It holds us back from creativity. So, but perfectionism makes me really good at what I do, even if it has its price. How do you get the result without the price? Well, that's a great question. Well, the truth is, you think right now that perfectionism makes you really good at what you do, but I don't think so. I think being detail oriented makes you really good at what you do. And I think you're using the word perfectionism because that's what you think it is. But actually, the skill is that you are detail oriented, that you are concerned about all of the pieces and that you want to make sure that everything fits itself. That is not perfectionism. Perfectionism is the idea that no matter what you do, it's never good enough, right? And thinking about things in that negate, right? Thank you. He said cool nuance. Thank you. I feel honored, right? But that's really what it is, right? You are a detail oriented person, and that attention to detail makes you good at your job, right? But if you aren't catching every single detail, we aren't saying that you're bad at your job. But perfectionism means that you don't make a single mistake, that everything you do is perfect. And that's different, right? That's a different set of standards, right? And so think about it that way, Matthew, because we want the result. It's not that I'm trying to say that you shouldn't do your work well or be good at the things that you're good at, but let's call them what they are. Being a perfectionist doesn't help you at your job. Being detail oriented helps you at your job, right? And so that's where we see that difference, right? Perfectionism is an extreme. And anytime I see people doing extremist things, I question. The minute that someone is an extremist feminist, an extremist Democrat, an extremist scientist in some way, I have to question, because anything to an extreme makes me uneasy and it makes me question. And perfectionism is another one of those extreme behaviors. And that extreme behaviors tend to get us into trouble, right? So think about perfectionism that way, right? And in this way, and then maybe take a look at the article and think about which one of the perfectionism traps you fall into the most and how you could make some changes there. Because I think the minute that we drop this facade or this idea that we could ever be perfect, and we let ourselves lean into our perfect imperfection, right? We produce much better work. Our productivity picks up. So I'd like to see if we start to see those changes if we think about perfectionism in this way, if we consider it an extremist behavior and we look at it for its fallacies instead of for the things that everyone kind of says that it gains us. Because in truth, it gains us nothing. True perfectionists get stuck. They don't do anything. They don't say anything because they get so afraid to make a mistake that they cannot produce. And I don't think any of us need to be there, right? Anything that we produce in the grand scheme of life and the universe is very small. We are very small. We are a ripple in this huge sea of the universe that we don't even understand. And so when we look at it in that way, we need to remember to be humble. We are not gods. We are not aliens with perfect systems. We are human beings, and in essence, we are imperfect. Yeah? And so that is what I say to you today, guys. That is what I've been thinking about. Yes, Matthew, also some mistakes are beautiful and meaningful. I agree, right? Sometimes, artists will talk to us about the mistakes they make in painting are the most beautiful mistakes, right? Because they're not thinking, they're creating. And that's what I want for our writers. That's what I want for our academics. That's what I want for our accountants, right? The idea that you need to be perfect at anything will often hold us back. And so I want you guys to think about that. And I want you to think about what you'd be missing out on if you live a perfectionist life, right? So that's sort of where I'm at. That's what I've been thinking about and what I wanted to share with you guys today. So I challenge you to challenge your perfectionism. Challenge yourself a little bit. See if you can leave some of those behaviors behind and kind of rebox them up as the extremist behavior they are, right? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as always. So please comment wherever you're seeing this video. Send me an email at info@beccalaurie.com, or you can email me directly or you can get to me directly through the contact page on my website, which is beccalaurie.com. And I love hearing from you guys all the time. Your thumbs up and thumbs down. Let me know if the content of the video is stuff you're looking to see. And of course, your shares mean everything to me as I do this last push in this last month and a half, or really less than that, towards the end of December. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers, please. I would really appreciate it because I want to be able to continue this channel. And the truth of the matter is that unless it's really worth the spoons, then it's not doing its job. And so I got to think about that. Love you guys so much. I will, of course, see you out and about on the interwebs, and I'll be back here on Sunday with Growing Gratitude and next Wednesday with the next Being Becca Live. Until then, you guys, please remember to seek joy, create joy, and share joy, all the joys. And I will see you on Sunday for Growing Gratitude. Bye.